I just want to do a quick video to show people who may not know what the ground transport choke points are in British Columbia, why the slides taking out the highways are such an enormous problem, and how they are cutting off Canada's third most populous metro area from the rest of BC and Canada. First thing to know is that British Columbia is not like PEI or much of Alberta, where there are about a hillion bajillion roads covering the rolling landscape. Alberta has a network of range and township roads. But in BC, if you're lucky, there might be a forest service road that isn't closed or permanently deactivated, and one does not simply venture out on these roads without preparation, and a high-clearance four-wheel drive is mandatory for many of them. So, for all practical purposes, even in the best of times, unless you're going by all-terrain vehicle, you have 5 ways to go between the Lower Mainland and the rest of the country. Actually, there is a 6th. You can use the United States. But one reason you might not want to go through the state of Washington right now is that the Canadian Border Services Agency is requiring even vaccinated Canadians returning to Canada to present a negative PCR test at their own expense. You might get a case-by-case exemption if your travel is determined to be essential, but if not, you could be facing mandatory quarantines and/or hefty fines. So you would ordinarily have 5 ways to go. The most obvious is using Highway 5, between Hope and Kamloops, the Coquihalla Highway, and also the most southern part of the Southern Yellowhead Highway. This is, or was, a full-fledged freeway cut through the mountains in the 1980s, and it's a natural continuation from Highway 1 in the Lower Mainland. In fact, you have to turn off at Hope if you want to keep following Highway 1. This is the fastest and most direct route for many people. In fact, it had a 120 km/h speed limit. But thanks to the multiple washouts, it will likely be well into January before even temporary emergency repairs are completed to allow even a single lane in some areas. As such, Highway 5 is closed between Hope and Merritt. The historic way is the original Trans-Canada, Highway 1, going north from Hope through the Fraser Canyon. When you get up to Cache Creek, you can either follow Highway 97 to northern BC or turn east towards Kamloops. It is a 2-lane highway with lots of hills, several short tunnels, and occasional passing lanes. Unfortunately, this highway also suffered substantial damage, both south and east of Lytton, which itself had a disastrous fire just after recording 49.6 degrees Celsius, the hottest temperature ever recorded in Canada. You can't get to what's left of Lytton now, at least not from the south, because from the south you can only go up as far as Boothroyd. And as with Highway 5, we're looking at January before sufficient temporary repairs are completed to allow anything through. Also in the same area, Highway 8 from Canford to Spence's Bridge suffered catastrophic damage, and it could be a very long time indeed before that link is restored, but it isn't one of the 5 ways I'm talking about here. The third way is, fittingly, Highway 3, the Crow's Nest Highway. And technically you're on Highway 3 for like a nanosecond before Highway 5 begins. But what I mean here is taking it at least as far east as Princeton. You won't go through the Crow's Nest Pass, though. That's actually way over here at the Continental Divide at the Alberta border. But when you get to Princeton, you can take Highway 5A, the old Highway 5, north to Merritt, and join the present Highway 5, or you could just go up as far as Highway 97C, the Okanagan connector, and rejoin the Trans-Canada in Sicamous or something. Sounds good, right? Well, there are a few problems. First of all, both Princeton and Merritt were flooded and evacuated, so you will have no services in those towns. But on top of that, Highway 3 was also blocked by slides, and some areas are still down to single-lane alternating traffic. And also, as I'm making this, there have been cautionary complete closures during subsequent heavy rains. And on top of that, the route between Hope and Princeton is restricted to essential travel only by emergency order, and they are enforcing that with checkpoints. Oh, but it gets better. Okay, I mean that sarcastically. It actually gets worse. So far, I've been talking about 3 ways out of the Lower Mainland that branch off from Hope. You can't even get to Hope. Highway 7 north of the Fraser River and Highway 1 south of the Fraser River were also damaged. As I'm making this video, Highway 1 has a precautionary closure from Popcom to floods, and Highway 7 east of Mission is open for essential travel only, much like Highway 3 west of Princeton. Not to mention that the Sumas Prairie is flooded again, and they have Highway 1 there closed because the military built a tiger dam right over it. Okay, so what's left? There are 2 more ways, but they both have severe problems. There's Highway 99. Now, Highway 99 has such a varied character. A freeway from the US border to Richmond, knocks streetlights in Vancouver, cruises through Stanley Park, crosses the Lionsgate Bridge, gets a little more freeway in concurrency with Highway 1, then heads up to Whistler as the famous Sea to Sky Highway. It's not a freeway, but they did an awful lot to improve it for the 2010 Olympics. Anyway, the Sea to Sky section ends in Pemberton. But as you may have noticed, Highway 99 keeps going. Oh, does it keep going? It goes all the way to Highway 97 just north of Cache Creek. But between Pemberton and Lillooet is what has to be one of the wildest, craziest paved roads anywhere. And I have driven it and nearly melted the brakes off my car. And that was on dry pavement. I can't imagine trying to go this way in winter weather unless you be brave people with new snow tires, 4-wheel drive, and hearts that never falter. This is some dash cam footage my girlfriend took when we were on our way south to Vancouver on this stretch of highway. And I could just remember my brakes getting squishier and squishier the further down this hill we got. And at some point, I just couldn't bear to go on anymore. And so I pulled right over and tried to, hoped the brakes would eventually cool down. Is that coming up here? Should be pretty soon. But yeah, imagine this in the winter. Yeah, okay, there I'm pulled over. And eventually a truck came by and was like, oh, why don't you just use your lower gear? And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? You can't get anything larger than a box truck through all the twists and turns and incredible 15% grades, and indeed, there's a limit in place that vehicles must be under 14,500 kilograms. And if traveling this section of Highway 99 in winter wasn't enough to daunt you, well, it is also essential travel only. But there is one more way. You don't need anybody's permission, and because you won't leave Canada, you don't need a PCR test. But you would have to be absolutely mad. Drive to Horseshoe Bay. Take the ferry to Nanaimo. This crossing takes 1 hour 40 minutes and can cost nearly $100 for a car and driver. Drive to Port Hardy. Take the ferry to Bella Coola, which in the off-season takes 18 hours 15 minutes, including a transfer at Bella Bella, and subsequent stops at Shearwater and Ocean Falls, which are somewhere in here. Trust me, that will cost $333.65 for car and driver. Oh, there's Bella Bella. Or you can take the ferry all the way to Prince Rupert, simply stopping at Bella Bella and at Clemptu. Is here somewhere. Yes, there's Clemptu. Which will take a solid 22 hours, but come in at a bargain $329.15. And if you want a cabin, well, that's extra. So, maybe just take the dang PCR test. Some good news, though. The Canadian Pacific Railway between Vancouver and Kamloops is open. A lot of that route is through the Fraser Canyon, and indeed the minister mentioned the prospect of temporary level crossings. But better a level crossing than no road at all. Besides, the rail fans will love it. Doesn't look as though VIA is running though, unfortunately. Okay, it's 10 to 3 and I've got to work in the morning, so this is going to be rendered and uploaded. Have a good day, everyone.